Hi, I'm Dr. Mike, and this is NFGeeks. Today is Sunday, and Sunday is Ask Dr. Mike Day on the NFGeeks Facebook forum, where people post a question, and whoever's question gets the most likes, their question gets to be answered. And today's winner is Denise Martinez. Her question is the question that's going to get an answer in the video. It was a close race, I'll tell you. Close race, neck and neck, but she won. Denise won, so she gets her question answered. So here's her question, okay? Although it starts off with a statement, it's not really a question, but that's okay. Okay, here it is. I would love for you to discuss extroverted versus introverted feeling. People with introverted feeling are stereotyped as selfish, while extroverted feelers could be seen as not as in touch with their own feelings. How do we better relate to and understand people who use the opposite function? Okay, so the short version is her question is about what's the difference between extroverted feeling, introverted feeling, and what can we how can we help the other person who has an opposite one than we have, whatever. Although there's actually a third thing in there about selfishness, and that's actually the interesting part of that question, and I can't wait to get to that part. So that'll be fun. All right, so let's get into it. All right, well, the first thing to talk about, two things before I even get started. One is that there may be, some kind of parallel thing going on with extroverted and introverted thinking, meaning some of the things I talk about probably have their corresponding parallel universe, physics with introverted and extroverted thinking, compared to introverted and extroverted feeling. So that doesn't mean I'm going to talk about that now, but maybe for a future video or whatever. I'm just sort of hypothesizing off my head that there's probably something in the thinking world that's very similar to this. Also, there are more introverted and extroverted feelers than just NF. There's the SPs and the SJs who are feelers, but usually most of the examples I'm going to give are going to be NF examples, just because that it's easier for me to talk about. But that doesn't mean it doesn't apply to the others, to the other SFs, if you will. It certainly applies to them as well. In terms of the basic ideas I'm saying, the examples are going to be NF examples, but how everything relates, could be extrapolated to SP and SJ. I'm just going to be talking as an NF with NF examples because that's what I know. I guess that's what I'm just saying. All right, so let's get into it. The basic thing, again, I used this in another video, but the basic way to understand introverted, extroverted functions, whatever the function is, and that's going to come up, is that introverted functions are the functions you listen with, okay? The extroverted function is the function you talk through, okay? So you speak extroverted function. That's your language. That's your way of communicating. Your introverted function is the way you listen, the way things come into yourself, okay, into your minds. You listen with your introverted function. You talk through your extroverted function, okay? So that matters depending on what the functions are, all right? And it also matters compared to what the other function is, okay, the perceiving function or whatever. And that's important because, again, I want to take up more of a holistic view of all this and try to understand it holistically. So the first thing we have to realize is that you can't fully understand what's going on with introverted or extroverted feeling unless you take intuition or sensing into account, okay? Because then you can see how it comes out, all right? They're not disconnected things. It's one of the reasons why I don't like the function fetish that much, is that it's too reductionary, okay? We're trying to reduce. Tell me about this one little thing. You cannot understand this one little thing unless you know how it's attached to this much larger thing that's going on. So we can't talk about just introverted, extroverted feeling without talking about the perceiving function. I'm going to be talking about intuitiveness, as an NF, but you can't separate those things out. You can't separate any of it out. you'll understand it better if you think holistically than reductionary. Okay. I know I'm beating that dead horse, but I'm going to keep beating it. Okay, with a stick. It'll be a fossil, and I'm still going to be whacking at it. All right, so if let's go to feelings. Introverted feeling is the listening version of feeling. So introverted feelers like myself and the INFP, okay, and the SFPs, we listen with our feelings, okay, meaning that when something's coming in, all right, into our mind, into ourselves, whatever it is, we're listening with feeling. So the way we hear something is the way it makes us feel, okay. So that's how we hear it. It's colored in the feeling, all right. So when we hear something, it either makes me feel good, feel bad, whatever. And you know, you can see that if you listen to INFPs and ENFPs talk about music or what somebody's saying. You know what I mean? We're listening with our emotions. Okay, that's why we react to things. Okay, when we hear them or whatever, because that's how we're hearing it. We're hearing it with feelings. Okay. Extroverted feelers speak through their feelings, which means the feeling is the conduit of how things come out. It's literally the language. Okay, it's feeling language. Okay, and they're good at expressing feelings. Okay, they're not necessarily good at talking about feelings in an abstract sense because that's harder, but they're able to talk feelings through be able to talk through feelings. All right, that's their way of communicating. All right, so that's the basic difference. All right, that between the two. That introverted feeling is a listening feeling. Extroverted feeling is a talking feeling. Okay, so introverted feelers are hearing. So INFPs and ENFPs are listening with our feelings. INFJs are speaking through their feelings. Okay. So that leads me to sort of wanting to talk about the whole selfishness thing. That part of the question. That's actually the interesting part of it, because I think it's a little misunderstood. Okay, because people don't know the right word that they should be saying. That's outside of MBTI. Okay, it's not that introverted feelers are selfish. Okay, it's that introverted feelers are self-absorbed. Okay, and that's true of the SFPs. Okay, self-absorption, and that's not the same. You know, selfish is not wanting to share, wanting to keep things, control things. You know, it's a form of greed. You know, and that's not true about introverted feelers. Introverted feelers, well, they can be greedy, but introverted feelers can be very, very giving and sharing and very not selfish. I mean, that's very true. You know, that's not the right word, and it doesn't mean the same thing. Self-absorption is when you're sort of hyper-focused about your own experience, okay, and how everything's affecting you and how everything is happening to you, and it's all about you in terms of your direct experience of whatever it is you're experiencing, okay? That's not the same as being the center of the universe either, you know, narcissism or superiority complex where it's all about you. That's not what self-absorption is either. Okay, you cannot have a superiority complex. You could have a sense of humility, okay, and you could still be self-absorbed. All right, and the thing is, because people don't understand self-absorption, they think it is a superiority thing. So, for example, that happens to me all the time. I give some of my personal examples. People think I have less humility than I actually do. I actually have a lot of humility. I don't act like it because I think it's one thing is I just think it's funny to not act like you have humility. I think that's comical. But really, the issue isn't that I'm not humble. The issue is that I'm self-absorbed, okay? Because I have this introverted feeling thing going on. So let's imagine for a minute. So what does that mean? Well, again, think of the listening idea that I said. We're self-absorbed because everything's coming in and hitting us with our feelings. Okay, we're hearing the world through our feelings, which means that when the world comes in, it has an effect on us, an emotional effect on us. It's making us feel things. Okay, whatever it is. All right. I know everyone's gonna say, well, isn't that for everybody? Not exactly the same way. No. Okay. No. If you really start understanding your process, you'll see. No, it is a little. It's different. So, so here's the reason why we're self-absorbed, because we're having a direct emotional experience of everything, because everything is coming in through our feeling ear. You know what I mean? So everything's coming in through this emotionally, and it's going right into us, and so it's making us feel things. And so that's how we become very self-absorbed. Okay? And again, it's just because of the emotional experience that's on the inside. So it's not selfishness, it's self-absorption. Okay? Now, depending on whether it's dominant or auxiliary, makes a difference here. And also, again, how it connects to the perceiving function. Okay, so let's get to that for a minute. So first of all, let's take INFPs. So INFPs have this very, very deep feeling. Okay, and so when they listen to something, they have very good emotional listeners. But when they hear something emotional, it hurts them the most. It's almost like they're a dog, and they have they can hear in that other bandwidth. They can hear within that other emotional bandwidth, and so they're very sensitive to it because things come in and it goes right into their feelings and their heart and all that, because they're listening with their feelings. That's what's hitting them, the feelings. And so because of that, and they're feeling it very, very strongly, okay, some INFPs do come across as very self-absorbed, okay, for that reason. And it seems self-absorbed because it's such a big painful thing, and they're always talking about it. They always feel like daggers are being thrown at them, and for them that is what's happening. At least that's how they're perceiving it. So they're always sort of in this state of having this sensation that's constantly in their consciousness. Okay, this emotional state, could be painful or whatever, but they're always in it, always in it, always in it. And so that's why they're sort of stuck there, okay, because they have a very, very strong emotional place. Now, you can't separate this out, okay? You can't separate it out from the other function. So let's look at it another way, and that is, this thing combined with the extroverted intuition, okay? Now, they speak, as I do, speak through extroverted intuition, which means that the INFP and I speak through ideas. Okay, really, that's our language. We express things through ideas. Okay, ideas and concepts and abstractions are the way we talk. Okay, because that's our language. It's not emotional. We don't speak emotionally. Okay, we speak idea-wise. We feel deeply inside, but that's not how we talk outwardly. The problem with the INFP is that their extroverted intuition isn't as strong as their introverted feeling. And so that's why they can't get out everything that they're feeling. Okay, they cannot. They don't have enough abstract theoretical words to get out what's going on the inside, because it's going in deeper and then it can come out. Okay, because it's just not as strong enough. So there's always sort of a like a clog, if you will, or a bottleneck. It's more like a bottleneck where everything's sort of getting jammed and only a few things are coming out. And that's what it's like, because they cannot express with ideas everything that they're feeling. Okay, ENFP is the reverse. Okay, so first of all, I'm an introverted feeler, and introverted feelers are self-absorbed, and yeah, I'm self-absorbed too. Okay, everything's about my experience that I'm having, NFGeeks, all that. What is it like to be an ENFP and an NF, right? It's self-absorbed. So I have this introverted feeling, but my introverted feeling isn't as strong, and my extroverted intuition is stronger. So it's a lot easier for me to talk about my internal world than it is for the INFP. That's because my ability to talk in ideas is much stronger than whatever it is I'm feeling. So there's actually there's less. Not that I'm shallow, but it's easy for me to get everything out that I'm feeling. Abstractly, in terms of ideas and concepts or whatever. That's why I'm able to talk about MBTI and and able to express this and have the channel and all this, because my extroverted intuition is very strong. I can talk about ideas, okay? But it's easier for me to get everything out because, again, my ability to talk about those ideas is stronger than whatever it is I'm feeling, all right, on the inside. So I can get everything out. The INFP can't get it all out because their ability to say it is not as strong as their ability to feel it on the inside. So and INFPs will say all the time, nobody understands how I feel, I can't tell it, I can't say it, I don't know how to talk about it. Well, that's why. Okay, that's what's going on with that. So for me, it's the reverse. And one of the interesting things about it is that, and this happens with the ENFPs all the time, is that people think we're more attached to ideas or have deeper, stronger attached feelings than we actually do. It's not that we're shallow. No ENFP is shallow, I can assure you that. But because we can talk about ideas so strongly and so clearly and so extrovertedly, Okay, people assume that the feeling behind it is as strong as the way it's coming out in terms of concepts. Okay, so for example, one of the things that happens all the time, I was just talking about this the other day, that's why, is that people think I'm more attached to the idea of the scholarchy than I actually am. Okay, and I've talked about that before too. But I talk about it, and I'm very enthusiastic, and I like talking about it, and I talk about my ideas out there, and people think that I have this ironclad view of what it is and very rigid, and I don't feel that way at all. I mean, this is just a silly thing I concocted for my philosophy class, to talk about the Republic, and just have for laughs and to talk about it for a little while. Then I shared it on YouTube. But I don't feel that strongly about it. I mean, I think it's a good idea. I like the idea, but I'm not as attached to it as people think that I am, and that's because my ability to talk about it through extroverted intuition is stronger than the feeling that I actually have going inwardly. Okay. So again, you got to take that other function into account, all right? So review, we're self-absorbed. We're not selfish, all right? And again, absorbed means being, too hyper-focused on your own personal experience. That's what does it mean to be self-absorbed, okay? It doesn't mean selfish. It doesn't mean superiority complex. Doesn't mean any of that. It means just constantly focused on your own experience, no matter what it is. You're always there. How am I experiencing this thing? That's self-absorption. Okay. Now, so let's talk about the ENFJ, INFJ, or just extroverted feeling, if you will. Okay. Now let's talk about why they are the way they are. They're not as self-absorbed, I don't think, but they're not sensitive. Okay, they're not very sensitive. They care. Okay, they care. There's principles. They're going on them, but they're not sensitive. Okay, they're not sensitive to what's going on. Okay, as much, and that's because they don't listen with their feelings. Okay, it's not coming in through their feelings. So again, how do they speak? They speak through feeling. They're extroverted feeling speakers. Okay, that's how they talk. And so that means that feeling is the way emotions are the way ideas or things come out. They're wrapped in emotions. They're connected to emotions. The feeling itself is the communication, okay, of what's going on. It's not as idea driven. On the inside it is, okay, there's something going on, but they're not communicating abstractly. Whereas the INFP and the ENFP, we can speak abstractly. Like, it doesn't mean it doesn't mean they don't understand it. We don't understand. It's our language. I want you to get into the language speaking part. We speak out through our ability to have ideas, and they speak through the ENFJ, INFJ speak through feelings, okay, through their emotions. So let's make this. So what does that mean? It means that they're not always sensitive to things. And we listen to ENFJs and INFJs and the ones that have been on NFGeeks. Okay, they're wonderful, beautiful people, but they're not sensitive. Okay, they care. All right, they care, but they're not sensitive because it's not, when it comes in, it's not hitting them. It's hitting them in a non-emotional place. Okay, when things are going in. So let's talk about the INFJ. Okay, again, how do they listen? They listen with that amazing intuitiveness. That's their antenna. Boy, it's big. It's a big one. It's like the Arecibo dish. I mean, they're picking up something from space. That's what they hear with, and they speak through their feelings. Okay, now, again, they sort of have this weird opposite thing than the INFPs. The amount of ideas and abstractions that are coming in and they're recording, okay, is a lot bigger than their ability to express it. Okay, so they do have more going on because it's much stronger. They're taking in far more abstract information than they can communicate out, and that's why everything comes out in this crazy metaphor poetry thing with INFJ, because they don't have enough words or whatever to talk about what's going on, so they have to use symbols. That's why that comes out like that. But it's not a sensitive place. Okay, it's not sensitive because whatever's coming in is coming in abstractly, but it's not hitting them in the heart in that way. Okay, and when it does, it only hits the abstract idea. The bigger idea hits them in the heart. Okay, because it's the abstraction they're viewing, and the bigger place this is in the world that makes a difference. So, for example, I don't know if I told the story already, but I'm going to tell it again. If I did, because it really points to this in a good way. Okay, not the insensitive way. Yeah. But I was having a conversation with Shruti, and if you've seen, I've done a video with her, and she was telling me this horrible story of a person, a woman, I think, an old woman who got hit by a bus. Okay, that she saw, that day or the other day or something. And it was very traumatizing. Can you imagine? And she went and thinking about it, she sort of went into this place about this abstract place. She's watching this event, and it's coming in through the abstraction, because what she was thinking about is this abstract place of, the world and people suffering in the world, and why do these things happen and nobody cares, nobody went to her aid right away, and, and why didn't they care from the beginning, and, we have this, why is there pain in the world? It was this much bigger abstract thing, because it's being taken in through the intuition, and ideas. Whereas me, when she told me this story, okay, as an FI, I just thought about the woman. I mean, yeah, I know that all that's true about the world and why do we live in a world where there's pain and suffering. Yeah, that's true, but I'm thinking about, oh my God, she's an old woman. She's probably already suffered. She's, she's bones are brittle. Who knows how long this is going to take to heal? And does she have insurance? She probably doesn't. Is anybody going to take care of her? It was all about her, because it was hitting my heartstrings. You know what I mean? It was coming in and hitting me, but it wasn't conceptual. You know what I mean? It was all like, see the self-absorption. It was all about personal stuff. If I was the woman, so. Now, the insensitivity part about it is that the abstraction, the INFJ ear, isn't emotional. So it's just thinking about what works, what is right, what are the ideas, and it doesn't really care what the feeling is. Okay? It cares in a larger conceptual sense, but it's not, whatever the greater truth is what's important, not necessarily how it feels to someone else. They care, but it's part of this much abstract, I don't want to say objective, but non-emotional place, okay? It's conceptual. Their idea about whatever it is should be going on is conceptual. So when they're saying things like, this is what you should do, it's not coming from a place of sensitivity, okay? It's not coming from an emotional place of sensitivity. It's coming from this abstract place, and it's coming out through the extroverted feeling. And again, because the extroverted feeling isn't as strong, it's not always clear. I mean, it's fairly clear, but you can't follow the process, because first of all, it's not even coming out in a rational way. And whatever's behind it that's been taken in through the intuitive ear is more than what the extroverted feeling can say. All right. Now, lastly, let's take the ENFJ. They have the other problem, and that is that they can express feelings very clearly. There's not if you have an ENFJ in your life, you're not confused as to where they stand on some issue. Okay, I'm not confused about where Josh stands on secret societies or anything. We didn't have to do that video. I know what his opinion is. It's clear. It's coming out very, very strongly. They have a very, very strong emotional voice. Now, their introverted intuition isn't as strong, so they sort of have the reverse problem I have. They can talk very strongly about ideas that they may not have an understanding of compared to another like INFJ, okay? So, they come off as smarter than they actually are. Josh is going to love that. But it's because they're strong with their convictions and strong with their feeling, and it comes out very strongly, okay? That's their way of communicating very, very strongly. But you have to take into account that there's an introverted intuition that's taking it in, but doesn't have all the pieces, okay? So it's not, and again, ENFJ could be very insensitive. This is the way it is. This is what we got to do. We got to be a team. This is what we got to do. I don't care. Move it. That's because it's not coming from, it's speaking through an emotional place, but it's not coming from an emotional place. Whereas with the ENFP, INFP, it's the reverse, okay? We're not speaking emotionally, but it's coming from emotions, all right? So, again, the lesson there is you got to be holistic. To really understand FE, FI, you got to take into the other functions into account. And I would say the same is true about the sensors too, okay? Extroverted sensors, the SFPs, extroverted sensors speak through their sensing, speak through their tactile world, okay? But they're feeling things. They listen with their feelings too, okay? But they don't speak abstractly, they speak concretely. But they're speaking concretely about things they're feeling, okay? So there's a parallel. So how do you deal with the other person? Well, I think you have to take into account this holistic connection between the two things. Okay, so again, you can't just separate out intuition or sensing. You got to put it all together. because that determines what's going on. So what you have to do is realize where they're talking and where they're listening. Okay, that's why I bring that up all the time. That's so how do you deal with somebody? You have to know that direction. So if you're dealing with an INFJ, okay, you have to realize that they are taking in ideas very deeply, very abstractly, okay, very unemotionally. Actually, that's not their emotional side. To contemplate the world and ideas and what's going on. It can go right in to this very, very big, nebulous place. But that's what goes in. All right. What comes out, the way they talk, is through their feelings. Okay. So how do you deal with them? You realize that they're not. Yeah. You realize that their feelings are ways of communicating, not ways of thinking. Okay. So the feeling is the way it's being communicated, but it's not necessarily what's going on. All right. It's certainly not. They're not communicating feelings. They're communicating through feelings. All right. But you have to remember what's behind that isn't necessarily emotional, which means it could be sort of objective in a way. Okay. So that's the first thing you have to realize. You also have to realize too, is why you got to put the two things together. They understand more than they can say back. Okay, certainly, so if you're talking about your life and they may not be responding to everything that you think you're saying to them, they are responding. They're taking in more than what they can say, so they always understand more than you think they understand. Okay, yeah, all right, or even the way they look, they definitely understand more. So that's one way to think about it. If you're dealing with somebody who's like an ENFP, remember that they are listening with their feelings. Okay, they're talking through ideas or whatever, and the mistake that people make is that because we talk through ideas, this happens with INFP even worse, because we're talking through ideas, people think that, oh, they don't feel that bad about it, or they don't feel strongly about it, or it's going to be okay if I say this. And it won't be okay because we're listening with our feelings, and you'll say something that really hurts us, and we'll be upset because this is our ear. Our feelings are our ear. Okay, don't mistake the way people talk with the way people listen. I mean, that's really the big lesson with this. Okay, don't mistake those two things, because one is one function and one is the other function. Okay, INFJs will be listening with their intuitive side. INFPs are listening with their feeling side. So you have to realize that and not go with whatever's being communicated, or know that there's a difference. There's two lanes going back and forth. Okay, when dealing with another person. Now, the last thing I want to say is that the reason why people say these awful things that, like, IFIs are selfish or whatever, is that you're judging the other person through your own process. So, you know what I mean? So you're judging. So an INFP or an ENFP is being judged by people who are, extroverted feelers. Okay, so the extroverted feeler, it seems self-absorbed or whatever, or the extroverted thinker, maybe it could even be that far. But if you're miscommunicating with the type, okay, that's because you're not communicating with them on their terms. There's a video about that. But what you're also doing is that you're judging them by your standards, the way your type judges. Okay, so from an extroverted feeler's point of view, who is communicating, through feelings, INFPs and ENFPs may seem like a pain because we're supposed to be NFs, but then we get all upset about something, and why do you get all so upset? I was just talking to you. That's judging, through your own type. So don't judge a type by the standards of your type, okay? Because then all the types suck, and then somehow you're the best one or whatever. A good example for me as an ENFP is that, if you've watched other videos, I don't get along well with ESTPs. I've had some very negative experiences with ESTP. But I don't think ESTPs are evil, okay? In fact, ESTPs are totally consistent with SP values, okay? If you look at the way ESTPs act, and you look at SP's values, totally consistent. Really, it's just that my values as an ENFP and ESTP values are just incompatible. That's the way I look at it. But it's not that they're bad and I'm good. There's something, you know what I mean? It's not, I'm not going to judge them through ENFP values, okay? It's that we have different sets of values that don't exactly, they don't exactly line up. So don't judge an FI, by your FE values in reverse. FIs don't judge FEs, be good about it. All right, so that's it. That's long, half hour. That's plenty, right? I think that's plenty of time for this issue. All right, so thanks for watching.